Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Ian Kavat. Taiwan's presidential frontrunner Lai Ching-te has confirmed his running mate, former Taiwan representative to the United States Hsiao Bi-khim. The New York Times in January described her as one of the most influential envoys in Washington, despite the lack of formal ties. Will the ruling party's announcement galvanize the opposition unity ticket? With me to discuss this are Michael Turton, Taipei Times columnist, and Andrea Yang, Democratic Progressive Party Deputy Secretary General, and Tang Shao-cheng, National Chengchi University Institute of International Relations Professor. Professor Tang, Andrea and Michael, very warm welcome to the show. Hsiao Bikhim has been Taiwan's representative to the US since 2020. In the decade before that, she earned her political stripes as a legislator in Hualien County, a traditional stronghold of the opposition Kuomintang. Presidential hopeful Lai Ching-te first asked Hsiao to join his ticket as early as January 2022 on a layover to Honduras. The former envoy to the US said at the time she thought he was joking. And yet, a month later, Russia invaded Ukraine, shattering peace in Europe. And Taiwan has come under increasing pressure from China. Beijing has twice sanctioned Hsiao, including in August 2022 for what it said was her role in arranging former US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. This is what Hsiao said at the announcement in Taipei. Whether Taiwan can safeguard its democracy and decide its own future will have a huge impact on Taiwan's own survival and on the world as a whole. Michael, let me come to you first. So to start off, let's first establish, in the light of maybe Hsiao Bikhim's quote there, what you consider to be at stake in this election.
Well, I think what's at stake in this election is this is the 2016 idea that we're safeguarding Taiwan, but now the electorate, I think, wants to hear more about housing prices and salaries and long working hours and things like that. And the DPP, to me, hasn't talked enough about that. And I'm hoping with Lai on the ticket, we'll see a more forceful approach, and with, Hsiao Bikhim on the ticket, we'll see a more forceful approach in that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Andrea?
So first of all, we believe that it's a very convincing candidate for 2024 election. And we believed Bikhim's ability is not just on US or Taiwan diplomacy. We receive a lot of international friends congratulate us for choosing Bikhim, and they believe that Bikhim would do very well in every aspect, not just the international arena. She cares about human rights. She cares about Taiwan's democratic performance. So
is this what's at stake? Taiwan's democracy?
Taiwan's democracy and also our external relations.
Yeah. Okay, and would you like to address what Michael said about, he thinks sort of safeguarding democracy is a 2016 thing,
yes,
whereas
yes.
now that there should be, and the electorate wants more of a focus on the domestic issues.
That's right. The result of the two Taiwan's domestic elections in 2018 and 2022 shows that people are not happy with the DPP's domestic policies. But there's a lot of reforms needed to be done. There are a lot of pains that we need to go through. But indeed, the importance of domestic issues are not less than the external relations. So I say that we do need to address more on the future plans, visions towards Taiwan's economic achievements, especially when China's economic is going downturn.
Professor Tang, would you agree that a strong economy will help to safeguard Taiwan's democracy?
Now, on the one hand, yes. But what Ms. Yang just elaborated is actually my concern. It's the typical lean on one side policy. No words on mainland China. For instance, as Rosenberger just visited Taiwan a couple of weeks ago, what she has elaborated is totally different as the DPP's policy. For instance, oppose the change of status quo, not support Taiwan independence, and call for cross-strait talks and so on. Yeah, but I have never heard something from the DPP in this regard. I hope that the DPP can also do something in this regard to lessen the relationship between the, I would not say improving, but to lessen the tension between the two sides. That would be a very, very gain and win for the Taiwanese people.
If you can respond to some of the things that Professor Tang has mentioned there. He said that the DPP has been silent on cross-strait issues, and he seems to think that the entry of Hsiao Bikhim might increase tensions. Is that correct reading?
Right. That's right.
It's hard to see how a single politician, whatever her stature, could increase tensions all by herself. I think the important issue is that Beijing continues to refuse to talk to Taiwan, and the DPP would be delighted to talk to Beijing if it would drop its preconditions and simply talk. And it would be nice if the people in Taiwan who are speaking, who are conveying Beijing's ideas, would take a moment to talk back to Beijing about this issue, that they are the ones who need to be talking to the DPP. The DPP is in power. It's time that Beijing recognize reality.
But that's the point. I disagree. For instance, if you want to talk with Beijing, there must be a precondition, not a united consensus.
Well, over the past few years, we've just chosen to take steady approach towards China. But and U.S. government would not be happy to see any provocative move that would trigger potential conflicts, especially military conflicts, and which China has been conduct military activities around Taiwan. So it is very important that we realize that we don't want any dramatic changes over cross-strait issues, but we do welcome formal communicative channels, constructive dialogues. But this is Beijing refuses to talk to DPP government. The truth is that the DPP will be willing to talk to Beijing if we have mutual respects on the common ground.
Okay, let's all hear what Hsiao Bikhim herself said at the press conference about why she agreed to be Lai's running mate.
那当然，我们除互补之外，我相信我们有很多共同的信念就是我们都是愿意为台湾承担责任的人那这个共同的价值那希望台湾的民主自由能够永续永存的信念也是我们最深的连结。
Now, China's Taiwan Affairs Office called Lai Ching-te and Hsiao Bikhim an independence double act, adding, and we know what that means, without elaborating. Michael, what do you think that means?
Well, it's obvious nonsense. Taiwan isn't part of China, so we're not separating. It's just Beijing's way of attempting to paint these people as radicals instead of what they are: democracy supporters of rule of law,
and also the status quo.
And the status quo, exactly.
Okay.
Well, that's the point. I just want to hear the comments from Michael on what the Rosenberger has just mentioned. Said in Taiwan a couple of weeks ago. Oppose the change of status quo, not support of Taiwan independence, and promoting the dialogue between the two sides. Is that also a joke? Yeah, your comments.
How can we have dialogue when Beijing refuses to have it? How can we have dialogue when the precondition is surrender?
It's not
possible.
My interpretation of the Rosenberger statement is that he or the United States, she is the United States, does not support Taiwan independence.
No, but
and what does that mean?
It doesn't oppose it either. That's important to keep remembering that. When the United States says we do not support independence, you should not interpret that as we are opposed to independence. You should simply interpret as that we will not actively support this. That's right, go ahead.
The first one is the United States opposes the change of the status quo. Exactly. What does the status quo mean?
What is the status quo? Everyone has a different version of it.
Okay, what's your version?
I mean Taiwan, China, and the US.
Taiwan and China, I mean the bilateral relations between Taiwan and China is not a foreign relations.
That's your vision.
That's my vision. Yeah, that's right.
But under international law, Taiwan's not part of China. It's been that way since April 28th, 1952, when the San Francisco Peace Treaty was signed. The status of Taiwan is unresolved. That's U.S. policy. That's international law, and that's the policy of the major powers: Japan, Australia, UK.
Yeah.
So all you've got is this claim from China, which you keep repeating, hoping that it will have some effect. But repeating a claim does not make it true.
Okay, I don't want to dwell on this too
Yes.
long, but
I agree.
in the ROC constitution, it does say that the ROC is a nation.
Yes.
Yes, and so your argument perhaps doesn't work either, because you acknowledge that there is a government in Beijing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay. But let's not dwell on this too much longer, because
Okay.
we have a lot so far.
Okay.
Okay. So, last week, in a major move, the opposition parties did announce a coalition. What impact would this unity ticket have on the election? Andrea.
Our supporters or their supporters cannot understand the cooperation is based on either ideology or political interests. That's something that, because running for a presidential election is not for joke, then they should have the responsibility to elaborate their coalition to the voters.
Let me bring Professor Tang in then. So, do they have a shared ideology?
I know Mr. Ke very good, and I hope I helped him construct his ideas on the cross street, and he lies in between the blue and the green camp, yeah. So he does not accept the so-called 1992 consensus, but on the other hand, he has actually a very good experiences with Beijing, with Shanghai, especially Shanghai. Yeah.
So dialogue is possible without the 1992 consensus.
That depends.
Michael, your thoughts on the unity ticket?
Well, I think
Just
a lot
briefly.
of people are looking at the numbers and saying, "Oh, land buy, it will win." And elections are not math tests. So I think
adding the voters up.
when you add it, it's not going to work, because voters are going to see, hey, wait a second, this is not the guy that I originally supported. This is a different guy, and I'm not going to vote for him. And now, of course, we have Hsiao Bikhim with Lai, and that's going to change things. I thought it was really great the way Lai has, for the last couple of months, the land buy talk has dominated the news cycle, and suddenly Hsiao Bikhim is here, and now the DPP is on top of the news. So that was good. I don't think that a unity ticket is going to do that much better than the two of them separately.
Okay. My next guest is Steve Yates, chair of the China Policy Initiative at the America First Policy Institute and former White House Deputy Assistant to the Vice President for National Security Affairs. He shared his thoughts on a proposed blue-white unity ticket.
Yeah, I'm skeptical of these kinds of coalitions coming together. It involves a number of very, very strong personalities. And in politics, strong personalities, in many cases, not just in Taiwan, have a hard time giving in to one another. They all want to be the first place pony in the race. And so this is one of those coalitions that I thought was going to be very difficult to hold together. And I was skeptical of it being an enduring one from the moment it was announced. But every once in a while, you can be surprised by Taiwan politics and see something new. This, I think, is back to the way things always have been. In 2000, we had a divided field. I think that is an echo of what we are seeing now. And so I think the KMT and Ko Wen-je's party are likely to continue to divide the non-DPP vote, among others.
There was a report that the American Institute in Taiwan actually approached Ko Wen-je and asked whether China had any involvement in the announcement of the unity ticket. What do we understand, I mean, from the Washington point of view, about the level of possible interference by China?
Well, I think in Washington, the tables have really turned on former President Ma from, say, a decade ago, when he had really favor with the Obama White House. And now I think former President Ma is seen as someone who argues very strongly for an accommodation with the Communist Party of China to bring about peace and prosperity in the Taiwan Strait. But that is a prospect that I think fewer and fewer people in Washington believe will work. We see Xi Jinping predominantly as a very different kind of leader now. And the old appeals of 2008 to 2016 just are unlikely to change the calculus in the Taiwan Strait in 2023 and 24. And so I think that's the concern is China going through former President Ma or any other forces in Taiwan to try to bring out this coalition to defeat the DPP, which we know Beijing does not like.
Andrea, so as we heard there, Steve Yates says the concern in Washington is whether Beijing is acting or going through former President Ma Ying-jeou. What evidence is there to support that?
It is very obvious that Ma is trying to play the role whether he's been assigned to do this or not. So he tried to glue this KMT and TPP together, but then he failed. We don't know whether what's the story behind it and how he's planning to make more move on that.
Michael, even Joe Biden in his summit with Xi Jinping broached this subject, asked Xi Jinping to respect the electoral process in Taiwan and not to engage in election interference. Well,
I get line messages full of, propaganda from Beijing, and I would say that Xi Jinping is not going to keep this promise. I think it's very clear.
Okay, Andrea, let's move on to the talk of Taiwan at the summit between Xi Jinping and Joe Biden. Now, apparently, according to an unnamed U.S. official, Xi Jinping showed some irritation when he said to Joe Biden that he had heard of, reports from U.S. military and U.S. officials saying that China would invade Taiwan either in 2027 perhaps or 2035, and he said that there were no plans to do that. The Nikkei said that this is significant, that it actually provides some strategic clarity. What's your view on that?
Right, it would be nice if it's the truth. Yeah, but the thing is that Putin has made a lot of comments that he would never invade Ukraine. So action speaks louder than words. And we believe that if the Beijing government could stop their military activities around Taiwan and also do not deploy missiles pointing at Taiwan, that would be a very concrete evidence that they have no plan to invade Taiwan or initiate any potential military conflicts in the future. So this promise should be openly made to the world instead of, being sent by an unnamed U.S. officials. But the Taiwanese government or the Taiwanese people would also need to be prepared the potential break of this promise. And we would not just sit here and take it easy on this statement.
So, Michael, do you agree with that? Essentially, nothing has changed. He said that there's no timeline, but that unification must happen eventually.
Right. So I don't think anything has changed. And I think a related issue here is China's expansionist activities elsewhere. For example, against Philippines. Even if there's no plan to invade Taiwan, a war could still start because China's doing something somewhere else. So fundamentally, China has the capabilities and it's developing more of them. And when nations get those capabilities, they tend to want to use them.
Professor Tang.
It's a kind of peaceful charm offensive, yeah. And I don't believe him in this sense, yeah. This is just a gesture, yeah.
So you also believe it doesn't mean anything?
Charm offensive,
okay.
Charm offensive, yeah. But Beijing has never renounced the use of force vis-a-vis Taiwan.
Right.
So that's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to address, because apparently in that conversation,
Yep.
Xi Jinping said that no current plans. However, there would be some conditions where force would be used.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you believe those conditions are, other than the one which is the formal
In
declaration
the year
of independence?
2005, Beijing released the so-called anti-secession law. Of the point 8, there was 3 red lines. Yeah, Taiwan independence, formal Taiwan independence, incidents that could lead to Taiwan independence, and hopefulness of reunification. That means reunification will become totally hopeless. Yeah? That means these are the 3 written conditions or red lines for the invasion of the PLA. And recently they released another points. For instance, the outside forces. If the outside forces stations in Taiwan, I mean the others, especially the United States, very nervous because they consider that Xi Jinping is serious. But this time, Xi Jinping said, no way, we have no plan. So I would say, as I just mentioned, it's a kind of peaceful, charm offensive. So that's why I don't believe him.
Michael, so trying to thread all that together, the implication is that the DPP party wants the status quo. So that is self-governing Taiwan, self-governing China. The opposition parties seem to be that they, I don't know, this is the big question, isn't it?
I don't know. What is cause for foreign policy?
Yeah, if the electorate is not clear about this, how dangerous is that?
I think Ko Wen-je was going to get a lot of good advice if by chance he ever becomes president. I think he'll get a lot of good advice. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is full of professionals. There's lots of talented individuals outside watching. So, and hopefully he'll listen to that good advice. I think the issue with the electorate is that they do not want to see any changes in the status quo either. They would like to continue to run businesses in China and, ship their goods to China and get goods from China and all the economic benefits that we get from having an economic relationship with China.
Andrea, so let's go back to safeguarding Taiwan, which is what Lai Ching-te said when he announced Hsiao Bi-khim. He said that her homecoming was meant to safeguard Taiwan. So how does Hsiao Bi-khim help to do that in your view?
It would be essential for someone who would be able to communicate effectively with our like-minded partners. Taiwan Straits got the busiest maritime commercial activities around. So we see that Taiwan's problem is the world's problem. That would affect the world's not just maritime activity, but also all kinds of economic activities.
Professor Tang.
If we ask the people from the DPP, are Taiwanese Chinese? They will say no. But for the others, it's different. They cannot say no.
The other political parties?
Yes.
Okay.
They cannot say no. For instance, for me, politically, I'm Taiwanese, but culturally, I'm Chinese. So I am Taiwanese Chinese. Yeah, because Chinese there are several kinds. They are in the mainland, in Hong Kong, in Taiwan, and overseas, and so on. They are all Chinese.
According to the
but
surveys, that
that
trend is going down.
Yes.
So the trend of Taiwanese identifying...
Taiwanese is going. Chinese is going down.
Both are going down.
But in my view, if I say I'm Taiwan Chinese, it will not. It will. I have tests in my classes. Most of the students, they accept that. That means we are not a foreigner to mainland China, at least. Yeah, at least we're not foreigner. But if the DPP says, yes, we are not Chinese.
I think the overwhelming majority says that they are Taiwanese. From the last surveys, it was 60%.
But in the realpolitik, how can you define, as I just mentioned, how can you define the bilateral relations? Yeah, so that's the point. And how can you define the Taiwanese identity? That is another question.
That's what we have elections for, isn't
As
it?
young generations, they have these dual identities.
No, they don't at all.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget the result of the presidential election in 2020. It was the result of being the younger generations being afraid of being part of China. So it was an overwhelming victory for President Tsai Ing-wen, but not for herself. It's the fear of the younger generations that Taiwan would be swallowed by China.
And I
if you
think
have
that
to
Lai
choose,
Ching-te being the front runner in the polls to date also
Yes.
shows a certain amount of majority view there. And we're going to have to wrap up now. I'm sorry about that. Michael Turton, Andrea Yang, and Professor Tang, thank you so much for joining us
you.
today.
Thank you.
If you liked our show, please search for us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, and hit subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching our show today. Stay safe and see you next time.